The CIA literally tapped him as a child soldier. What do you mean volunteered? He was 15. In Afghanistan, the level of fucking poverty in that situation is, I mean, he was groomed to be a CIA death squad member.
Was just noted, was instituted in June. And in a sense, Trump is just saying, I'm going to intensify this travel ban, mostly on countries in Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia. And it's a bit of a mishmash of countries. There's not a lot of rhyme and reason to it. If you look at Trump's social media posting where he announced this, it was classic rambling. He went on and on about Somalis in Minnesota, and then toward the end got around to this particular Afghan man. But I think we should recognize what's happening here. I mean, Trump's polling is plummeting in large part because he's not addressing the cost of living problems that many Americans are feeling.
It's interesting people are quick to notice the grooming and recruitment of a minor for sex, but not for war crimes. Unfortunately, chatter, I don't think people are quick to notice the grooming and recruitment of a minor for sex either. It's just where we're at right now.
And he is, falling back on his safe zone and attacking immigrants for a crime wave that nobody but him actually sees.
He's also effectively ending the ability of people to seek asylum from these countries, isn't he? I mean, how does that square with the United States' obligations under the Refugee Convention?
Well, there are two ways to look at that. I mean, one are people who are already in the United States. They have a right to seek asylum. That's a judicial decision. Trump can't just say, no, you're not going to get asylum. If they actually have a credible fear of persecution if sent back, they're entitled to stay. Now, where Trump has much more leeway is around refugees outside the United States who have petitioned to come to the United States. And Trump has radically reduced the number of refugee admissions from 125,000 that typically come in to just roughly 7,000. I mean, a radical reduction. And he wants to reserve a lot of those for white South Africans fleeing what he claims is a huge problem of racist violence in South Africa that, again, most people don't see.
And obviously the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has...
Yeah, that's the real add insult to injury moment, where it's like, oh yeah, white refugees from South Africa are actually experiencing white genocide, and we must bring in more of them, when the overwhelming majority of white people in South Africa are laughing at that notion and saying it's ridiculous. Meanwhile, everyone else that is like actually from areas that we have destroyed that want a better life, well, fuck those people.
An immigrant family background himself. But Cubans are also on this list, aren't they?
I mean, the Cubans, the Venezuelans, and, that's the irony here. And Marco Rubio has, in a sense, given up his past. One appropriate response to this would be to say, okay, here was a guy who was committing summary executions on the US government's behalf. Maybe we should stop supporting summary executions. But that's not what Trump is going to say.
Yeah. Why are we in Afghanistan for 20 years? Why do we have a outsourced death squad that is engaging in civilian executions? Maybe we should stop those things. It sounds pretty woke, I know. It's unacceptable. The death squads will continue. We're being woke here for saying maybe we shouldn't do those unimaginably violent things
right now, because Trump is sponsoring summary executions off the Venezuelan coast in the Caribbean against so-called drug suspects. These are completely lawless murders, but he's not examining this clear criminality. He's addressing concocted criminality on the part of immigrants who are much less likely than Native Americans to commit crimes.
But how far do you think the Trump influence is spreading? I mean, there have been reports in the press in recent days that the Trump administration has been writing to European governments saying you should also be stopping mass migration. You should also be making the case against, preserving your sovereignty. Is this a philosophy that is spreading from Washington and the Trump administration over here?
The Trump administration is deliberately promoting this white Christian ideology, the idea that Western civilization is premised on white Christianity, and any immigration contrary to that somehow undercuts the pillars of Western civilization. It's a blatantly racist, often Islamophobic approach. That's what Trump represents in the United States, and he's trying to promote similar far-right political parties in Europe to try to enhance this view.
Kenneth Roth, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We begin with the Fox News alert. 20-year-old National Guard.
Yeah, I mean, I brought this up yesterday. Exactly. This is a long shadow of the Phoenix program in Vietnam and similar death squad units in Guatemala, Colombia, and elsewhere put in place in the 1960s, which was also used as a model in Iraq and Afghanistan. This is a part of the American imperialist playbook. You go to the country, you take advantage of the pre-existing ethnic tensions or sectarian tensions, you create a structure, you create units of unimaginable violence that you outsource to the compradors, the native population. It gives you a sense of plausible deniability as well. Okay? We've done this everywhere. And then once the dust is settled and you quote unquote lose the war to the native anti-imperialist forces, you then bring those guys to the United States of America. You utilize them to create a steady flow of propaganda against the country that you just had to embarrassingly leave. This is a very common tactic. Sometimes it leads to blowback, like the Thanksgiving Eve instance of violence. Other times, even if you don't bring the compradors to the United States of America, they still end up doing devastating blows to the domestic population. 9/11 is a example of this, of course. And then we have the legion of PTSD brain broken veterans that are also engaging in similar acts of unlimited super violence because they themselves have also been lied to. They have no options. They're experiencing all the pain with no help whatsoever. And then the only way to seemingly bring back control into their lives is by engaging in suicide by cop or killing themselves and killing a bunch of other people, just like snapping. Word soup? Are death squads that bad? Yes. Yes, chatter. They are that bad.
Member dead, and another fighting for his life after Wednesday night's ambush in
Washington.
Washington.
The Republicans are talking about the story now.
The Washington, D.C. Fire and EMS Department sharing this video of them honoring the victim, Sarah Beckstrom, as her body was transferred.
Sarah Beckstrom of West Virginia, one of the guardsmen that we're talking about, highly respected, young, magnificent person. Started service in June of 2023. Outstanding in every way. She's just passed away. She's no longer with us. She's looking down at us right now.
That was the president breaking the tragic news yesterday. The president also saying 24-year-old Andrew Wolf still fighting for his life right now. His family asking for prayers.
The suspect had worked with the CIA and evacuated to the U.S. from Afghanistan in 2021. The death of Beckstrom means he will likely face upgraded charges to include murder in the first degree. The DOJ also pushing for the death penalty.
We will do everything in our power to seek the death penalty against that monster who should not have been in our country. We're praying for a recovery for them, but worst case scenario, minimum life in prison with terrorism charges.
And with that, let's bring in U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Janine Pirro. I know it's a tough time for you, Janine, but can we talk right off the top about, are we going to see an escalation in charges?
Oh, there's no question. First of all, our hearts go out and our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of a beautiful 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom who answered the call to serve her nation. And she volunteered, and she ended up being shot ambush style on the cold streets of Washington, D.C. By an individual who will now be charged with murder in the first degree. There are certainly many more charges to come, but we are upgrading the initial charges of assault to murder in the first degree. And we are hoping that the more information we can get and the more investigation that is going on 24/7 now, around the clock in Washington, the more we will find out about what actually happened in terms of this individual even being in this country and being in a position to ambush and shoot down an innocent young woman who was doing her duty to the people of this country.
Let's talk more about that, because obviously, in order to make a case in a court of law, you are going to need evidence. What can you tell us about the evidence being collected right now at the alleged killer's home in Washington state?
Well, I'm not going to get into the execution of the search warrants.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty open and shut, pretty simple case. It's actually very common. I guess the only thing that's unique about it is that the dude is brown, you know, and an Afghan national as opposed to someone from Idaho. Because shit like this happens all the time, you know. It's just, it happens incredibly frequently, as a matter of fact. It's just that the very fact that he is a CIA death squad guy who is an Afghan national is the unique component. He has the same exact type of PTSD due to the same exact type of heinous crimes committed by many of our homegrown veterans that went and got shipped off to Afghanistan. That's it. It's not the same? What? Not National Guard, really? It's not the same? What are you talking about? I'm talking about like Spec Ops guys that fucking come back and snap and kill their families. That's what I'm talking about. Like there was a literal Marine, Marine veteran that rammed his goddamn F-150 Ford pickup truck, a MAGA supporter, into a Mormon church not that long ago, like only a couple months ago. When these people are like, oh, I wonder what happened, it's like, it's a pretty common story. Yeah, a few months ago, a white male veteran shot up in a boat, shot up an entire fucking boat restaurant in North Carolina. These things happen pretty frequently. The reason why the administration doesn't make a big fuss about it is because they'd rather brush it under the rug and act as though it's not that significant of a problem. I mean, the very first day of the administration, you had the I feel like Batman or Halo guy, another Green Beret, who got a Cybertruck off a Turo, drove it to the fucking Trump Towers in Las Vegas, and blew himself up. What are we talking about? It's been like that since the first day of the fucking admin. At a certain point, you got to be like, hey, what's happening here? What's going on? Is this a real issue? Why is this happening? But that's not an easy narrative for many Americans to start thinking about, because that would require them to start thinking about why we're in Afghanistan, why we're in Iraq, why we're doing unlimited warfare all around the world. Is this productive? Is this useful? Should we be killing a bunch of fucking civilians overseas? You start questioning things like that, all of a sudden you're going to be awoke. And we can't have that.
But my staff was involved at the command post, and they have
Yeah,
been.
don't worry. We got people like this in here. You know what I mean? I'm over here being like, hey, endless militarism by the United States empire is probably going to have significant backlash by the domestic population, including blowback from the foreign population that we have dominated and tapped into to make mercenary death squad people. And this guy's like, dog zap, taser dog. That's just a way to be like, man, shut up. Please shut up. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that at all.
There around the clock. We continue to seek warrants and to execute on those warrants, even as we speak, not just in Washington, the state of Washington, but in other areas around the country, to get everything that we need to make sure that this prosecution is as factful as we need in terms of the law and the evidence. This is a case that has touched the hearts of so many Americans, because to be gunned down on the streets on the nation's holiday is an outrage. And the individual who did this will pay the ultimate price, according to the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. As well, he should, once and if a jury returns a verdict that we will be seeking in this case.
Madam Attorney, what is your message to elected officials like Senator Dick Durbin and Senator Alyssa Slotkin that said that our National Guard was terrorizing American cities, that predicted that it would be the National Guard that would shoot innocent Americans, and many more horrific comments such as that?
You know, it outrages me. And, you know, there's a part of me that thinks that the left is disappointed that the National Guard didn't shoot someone. But the truth is that this left-wing progressive nonsense is nothing more than fueling the flame of division in this country.
Oh,
people should be
God.
grateful that the President of the United States has taken crime so seriously in this country that he is bringing in our law enforcement partners so that we can protect the innocent citizens. Look, I am the United States Attorney in the District of Columbia. We had the 4th highest homicide rate in the nation 2 years ago, and the president made the decision to protect the people of the district. Now homicides are down 60%, robberies are down 50%, carjackings are down 74%, and the left wants to complain about it. They should thank God that President Trump is the president, that he cares enough about the people of this country to fight the criminals and protect the innocent people. And let me say one more thing, and it's not about this case, it's about vetting in general. The nonsense that the left gave us with this Operation Welcome Allies. Look.
Yeah, it was the left that was like, we have to invade Afghanistan. It was the left that like said, hey, CIA, please find some 15-year-old Afghan boys and turn them into fucking monstrous mercenaries. That's it. It was the left that that designed this entire system. Totally. Hassan, I hope you perish. I mean, one day we all will perish. Hassan equals Nazi. Bad bitch PR. That's so funny. Wait, don't ban that guy. Hassan, are you still shocking your dog? Hassan, I hope you perish. Hassan equals Nazi. I'm gonna unban that person. That person has wonderful opinions. We gotta let that person in here. Hassan equals Nazi. Please explain what you mean by that. Thank you. You're welcome. Now please explain what you mean by Hassan equals Nazi. Yeah, one day we'll all perish. I want to know what kind of brain damage caused that person to believe this.
There was no vetting. If you think there was vetting, I
don't know why they keep saying this. There was so much vetting. This dude got more vetting than most people do. Okay? They got endless amounts of vetting.
bridge to sell you. If you saw the chaos that was going on at that airport in Kabul.
I hope you stay alive forever so you can experience the permanent lonesomeness. Okay, that's a crazy thing to wish upon a person.
In Afghanistan, it was typical of what was going on in the Biden administration. And the Pentagon, I believe it was Kirby and people in the Biden administration said the Afghan withdrawal that we all know was disastrous was a success. And that's a quote. They called that a success. That chaos is not a success. That is a nightmare. And 13 American servicemen and women were killed at that airport because the Biden administration couldn't get their facts together and couldn't make a decision regarding the rules of engagement to take down a known suicide bomber. So let's stop namby-pambing around with this, oh, he was vetted. There was no vetted. The welcome mat was thrown down. They even admitted that they short-circuited the vetting. What they did was they brought in 90,000 people into this country that were not vetted. They told us all the other immigrants were vetted. What do? Call the FBI in Afghanistan and say, gee, do you have anything on this?
Yeah, all of this goes away when you realize that the dude was working with the CIA. The dude was working for the CIA. What are you talking about? Like, no, you don't call the FBI in Afghanistan. You just call the CIA, the same CIA that's operating in Afghanistan, which the government did. The reason why they're talking about vetting is because they want to make this an immigrant issue, okay? That's it. That's the reason. They want to chalk this up as yet another version of like immigrant crime. That's it. That's why they're like, oh yeah, this is what happens when you let in migrants into the fucking country. It's like, yeah, I feel like this is a very unique case to be making here, don't you think? As much as I oppose your opinions, I respect the way you and your chat interact a lot more than others who say awful things to a chatter who politely disagrees and then bans them. I mean, I do that too sometimes. Trust me. But also, oftentimes the funniest thing is when someone says Hassan equals Nazi and I go, what do you mean by that? And I unban them and then they shut the fuck up because they realize that that was just a stupid thing to say. What happened? The bad bitch PR. You are a terrorism. What happened? Cat got your tongue, chatter? We unbanned you so you can make a convincing case. Oh, wait, never mind. They got permanently banned from the website because they said, I hope you perish. God damn it. I was memeing, don't hurt me. I know you were memeing, silly chatter. They got a site-wide. I also used to dislike Hassan, but he's really not that bad. Why so much hate? Yeah, there's an entire economy built around consistently refusing to address my arguments and instead just saying I'm a bad person. It's much easier to just tarnish someone's reputation over and over again by lying about them, especially if there are a shit ton of other people who are willing to entertain that. Instead of saying like Hassan's arguments are wrong. Yeah, poison the well. and then you don't actually have to get your audience to ever hear his arguments at all.
Guy? Did we call Venezuela and say, gee, how about your criminal justice system? What can you tell me about this guy? It's like the 10, 20 million illegals who've been let into this country. We don't know who they are until we suffer the consequences that we have seen in Washington. And I was on that scene, and it is a very sad place. And Sarah Beckstrom and her family did not deserve this. They should have been protected, which is the first order of government. And the left ought to stop their nonsense and recognize that they are not speaking for the American people. They are speaking about ideology and politics. Donald Trump, the president, the attorney general, and myself were interested in the facts, in the prosecution, making people accountable, and rest assured, we will.
You know, Madam Attorney, you bring up the vetting process, and we're learning more about this alleged suspect that apparently got this vetting before he partnered with the U.S. in these CIA elite counterterrorism things. It's unclear that there was any vetting after he came here. And I know you can't get into specifics of the investigation, but have we learned any more about what appears to be a likely motive?
That's not something that I'm going to get into right now. That's certainly something that we are examining. It's a fluid situation, as you well know. There are a great deal of people working, as I said, around the clock, trying to put together exactly what was going.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to just disparaging every migrant, I don't need any evidence. As a matter of fact, I will refuse to entertain the readily available evidence. Right? But, you know, other stuff, I don't know.
Going on. But let me bring you back to the scene of the crime. What happened at that crime is unmistakable. It is a premeditated murder. There was an ambush with a gun toward people who didn't know it was coming. And that is the homicide, and that is the murder that we're looking at right now. You can go into all the other stuff, but as a prosecutor, my job is to prove what happened at that scene. And make no mistake, we will do that.
I'm really glad you touched upon premeditation, because earlier in our show this morning, Emily raised a really good point. And she said the following: this is Thanksgiving week. You are a father. The alleged killer is a father of 5 people. He has a wife. They live in a tiny apartment in Washington state. You would think that leaving on a cross-country trip would set off a...
Oh, his family is implicated too. We should actually deport the little children. And his wife. Right? That's what you... Is that the line of argument that we're engaging in here? Yeah, it's great.
Period of red flags. And so when you reference premeditation, yes, that applies to the alleged killer himself. But what about potentially others who may have some knowledge about the premeditated plan? Can you tell us anything about the investigation with regard to...
By the way, Thanksgiving literally is not like, I mean, I say this as someone who's an American citizen, but didn't grow up here, obviously, grew up in Turkey, but like that's not a thing that you celebrate usually. It takes a couple years for you to be like, oh yeah, Thanksgiving, this seems cool. So considering that he was in the country for like, what, 4 years, I don't know if him and his family of Afghan refugees are participating in the Thanksgiving celebrations.
The potential...
I don't know how many red flags that would actually bring up.
That could be, let's say, involved in a conspiracy.
I'm not going to comment on that. You know that I can't. But there will be no stone unturned in this case. We will know everything about what happened. We have pretty much every agency, every investigative agency in this country involved right now around the clock. The intent and the determination of the men and women that I was working with and I spent the night with around the clock in Washington is very clear. We will know everything we need to know. It's not time to share that. When the time comes, we will share it.
Well, we appreciate, Madam Attorney, you coming on and giving us so much of your time. Just very quickly before we let you go, have you gotten any update on the other guardsmen, Andrew?
President Donald Trump says the United States will strike inside Venezuela. Quote,
oh, great. Right after blowback, right after blowback in Afghanistan, let's go immediately. Let's dive headfirst into another one of these endless quagmires, okay? Seems good to me. Just one more, guys. Come on. This time it'll be so different. This time it will be so different. There will be no blowback whatsoever off of this one. Millions dead, tens of millions displaced. It'll be fine. It'll be good. Just let me at it. Let me get one more.
very soon. He made the statement while speaking to members of the U.S. military on a Thanksgiving phone call. Have a listen.
And in recent weeks, you've been working to deter Venezuelan drug traffickers, of which there are many. Of course, there aren't too many coming in by sea anymore, if you probably noticed that. We'll be starting to...
Yeah, it's because Venezuela is very far. I don't know if you know this, but Venezuela is pretty fucking far to be coming in by sea and is not a narco trafficking hub anyway. Not because you started lasering random fucking boats off of the coastline.
Stop them by land also. The land is easier, but that's going to start very soon. We warn them. Stop sending poison to our country.
The U.S. has killed more than 80 people in strikes on alleged drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean. The administration has offered no proof that the vessels were actually carrying drugs. Alejandro Velasco is a historian and associate professor at NYU. He's joining us from Amherst, Massachusetts. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Let's get into this. President Trump says the U.S. is preparing to stop Venezuelan drug traffickers by land very soon. How seriously should we be taking this language? And what does it signal about a possible shift in strategy?
That's a great question. The reality is that over the past 2 weeks, what we've seen is very contradictory discourse coming out of the White House and, in fact, other members of the administration. We have some hawkish elements every day seeming to either leak or directly state that they seek greater intervention in Venezuela directly. And of course, we just had the recent naming designation of the so-called Cartel de los Soles as another escalation into that end. On the other hand, Trump has also said that he's not really interested in necessarily in intervention. He wants to talk with Maduro. Maybe there's room for negotiation. So, right now, this all seems like a part of a larger psychological operations game, warfare, to see if Maduro breaks.
The U.S. now has more than a dozen warships and 15,000 troops in the region. How unusual is this level of force around Venezuela, and what message is Washington trying to send?
It's unprecedented is what it is. Certainly it's the largest deployment outside of...
Yeah, I'm having leftovers, bodek, that my grandma made, pastrma. Is bomb. I'm eating it cold right now. That's how good it is.
And military exercises in the 21st century. And even in the 20th century, it was an unusual deployment for this part of the region. I think what it says, obviously, is that the United States is prepared to intervene. The real question is whether the person who has ultimate say in whether that happens, which is President Trump, has in fact agreed to do so. But he's positioned to be there, and to some extent, the fact that there is this massive deployment commits some kind of intervention, because without something changing in Venezuela, this might actually be seen as a victory.
Do you ever go to Carousel in Hollywood or Glendale? Yes, I love Carousel. This is literally from Carousel. This is their garlic sauce. And this is their, I forget what this is, but it's also from Carousel. Goated Armenian food.
For the Maduro government.
Well, while we're talking about things changing in Venezuela, the administration here has just designated Maduro and his allies as members of a foreign terrorist organization. What does that actually mean?
Yeah, I fuck with Tanku too.
It basically gives the administration more legal leeway to take actions that might not otherwise be permissible in a context of war or pre-war, if you want to call it that. It means that it has a greater arsenal and repertoire of action and engagement for people that it considers or designates to be part of this cartel. It also means that it doesn't have to provide nearly as much information, either certainly to Congress, which it already hasn't provided enough information, but to the judicial system. And so it allows for a greater range of action than has been the case.
Can you tell me, how are Venezuelans viewing this buildup?
Talking with your mouth full is making my skin crawl. I have food sensory issues. Please don't yell. Take a day off.
What impact could Trump's comments have on Maduro's domestic standing?
People that do that just want to be heard and seen. Is like a very annoying tendency. Hassan's job is to watch CNN and complain about it. Thanks for contributing. Yes, it is.
You know, Venezuelans have been through a lot, not just over the last 5, 10, 15 years, but really over the last 25, 30 years. The state of heightened crisis has almost been a kind of status quo. And so Venezuelans are going about.
DSA mentioned you in a fundraising email? Wait, what the fuck? Really? The fuck? By a guy who worked as a death squad, death merchant by the fucking CIA, who snapped. The fuck? Wow. Yeah, I can't believe she wasn't a Maoist. A Maoist third worldist.
I get why we're here. Crime's bad, but it's pointless if we can't do anything.
And that was Adam Carr, the former boyfriend of Sarah Beckstrom. I'm sorry, I mistakenly called him Andrew Carr a moment ago. His name is Adam Carr, and that's what he told our Gabe Cohen a short time ago today about Sarah Beckstrom and how she felt about being deployed to Washington. And here at the shooting scene, which we've been kind of scouring and covering the canvassing of this scene since yesterday, take a look at this makeshift memorial. It is really
It's just extra wild because like DC crime rates do not. I mean, there is no justification for deploying the fucking military to DC in any case, right? That's like the last option. What are you talking about? Unless there's like a direct military style conflict, what the fuck's the military doing there, right? But it's extra stupid when you look at DC crime rates going down and then this deployment happening just purely for the optics of it.
A critical condition.
And
the attack
one
on
that
him
is
and
illegal.
Sarah Beckstrom, highlighting America's profound social and political divisions.
Well, joining me now is the lawyer and former head of Human Rights Watch, Kenneth Roth. If you're a US citizen or green card holder from any of these 19 countries, or probably a few more, you're probably living in fear of being grabbed by one of these hooded federal agents. What legal protection do you have?
I mean, quite a few. Once you are a US citizen, even if by way of naturalization, you cannot have that taken away unless there was fraud found in your application. That's very difficult to prove. I mean, if you look at this particular case, I mean, Trump goes on and on about why did his administration grant asylum to this Afghan man. They knew all about him. He was completely vetted. This was the guy who was a member of a so-called zero unit working with the CIA that was essentially a death squad in Afghanistan. The Trump administration knew all that and admitted him anyway. Now, he's said to have had mental health problems. One can understand that as a response to being in a death squad. But, to go from this single individual to Trump, trying to turn this into a broad condemnation of immigration, blaming immigrants for crime when in fact immigrants are 60% less likely to be imprisoned than native-born Americans. I mean, this is all classic Trump just to pursue his racist anti-immigrant agenda.
Right, but how much of a turning point do you think this is if you put it together with the travel ban on these 19 countries and the way that the administration says it's going to change, well, it's going to start looking at people from those countries and their immigration status?
Well, this travel ban, as
I'm confused. Was he like a child?
Alleged crimes of just one man.
We see school shootings in the United States very, very frequently. Often they are committed, often it's political violence or violence committed by white men. And we don't say, oh, this is a racial problem. We don't say, we should think and, we should start thinking of banning white Americans or white males from schools.
Tonight, the other victim, Andrew Wolf, is still in it.
Damn, I said that verbatim yesterday. It's a good take. He's right. Sarah told her former boyfriend that her deployment was pointless.
Treated in and other.
Yeah, this is why I've been saying, like, I'm not going as hard on fucking the National Guard, or at least the individuals in the National Guard, as I would with like ICE or whatever. You know what I mean? Like these are people who are part of the National Guard. They all know that they don't have to be there. They all know that it sucks,
Other things regarding his treatment. In the meantime, our colleague Gabe Cohen spoke to a gentleman named Andrew Carr, who is the former boyfriend of Sarah Beckstrom, the Guard member who was killed in the shooting. They lived in West Virginia, and Gabe asked the former boyfriend.
So don't fucking join up. Come on, dude. We're talking about the goddamn National Guard. Jesus Christ. Oh. Like, please.
Sarah Beckstrom felt about her deployment to Washington. Take a listen.
Did she believe in the mission of being there? Did she think it was important, or did she think they didn't belong there, the West Virginia National Guard?
It was mixed. She got deputized in there, and they gave them no rights to do anything. She was like, people spit towards us, cuss at us, throw things at us, and we can't do nothing. She couldn't detain nobody. She couldn't stop them from doing wrong. It was like they told them to call the cops. She wanted to make the difference. She wanted to extremely. She was happy with it. And she just was also like, why am I here if I can't do nothing? Where they limited them so much, she's like, it's pointless. She's like,
oh, never mind. She was like, I want to be able to, combat crime with weapons. Jesus Christ. She's like, let me do cop duties, please. That's crazy. I mean, she's 20 years old, dude. She was 20 fucking years old. Lamau, are you defending her and making fun of chatters? Yeah, I still don't give a shit, dumbass. Do I think that... Hey, guys. You are going to be very confused when you hear my take on this, I think. No, I don't think a fucking 20-year-old National Guards member, no matter how fucking stupid... Trump himself is an immigrant and of German origin. Yes, every American is an immigrant, except for Native Americans. It's just... This is so brain-breaking, dude.
And you're just asking questions because you're a stupid person.
On social media, Trump promised to denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility and deport any foreign national who's a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. Migrant communities are fearful that ICE raids may now escalate, with several federal agencies announcing sweeping immigration reviews. The US Citizenship and Immigration Service has indicated the crackdown would apply to countries previously named in Trump travel bans that were introduced this June. They include states the US has very complex relations with, like Afghanistan, Iran, Cuba, and Venezuela, and several that Mr. Trump has fewer obvious reasons to target, like Sierra Leone, Togo, and Turkmenistan, making a list of 19 countries considered, quote, of concern. Afghan rights groups say, don't blame us for the alleged crimes of...
The craziest part about it is it's not like we're bringing in a shitload of immigrants from these countries anyway. Okay? It's just not like, with the exception of, I guess, Venezuela and maybe Haiti, there is like, how many fucking immigrants are we bringing in from Sudan or Eritrea or the Democratic Republic of Congo? Like, this is already the pre-established norm. America already has a white nativist immigration structure. This is just trying to offer red meat to the racist base. Yeah, what did Laos do? I don't know, but... There's a billion Turkmen taking over the country. Yeah. 2 hours before the Trump post, he definitely wrote it. This is the great lie of mass migration. You are not just importing individuals, you are importing societies. No magic transformation occurs when failed states across borders as scale migrants and their descendants recreate the conditions and the terrors of their broken homelands. It's so crazy for Stephen Miller to say this because he's Jewish, number one. And number two, at a certain point in American history, they said this about Jewish migrants, as well as they said this about Italian migrants, as well as they said this about Greek migrants, Irish migrants. Okay? It's just like none of this is real. None of it is real. It doesn't work that way. It does not happen. There's not a real problem. The reality is this. Exactly. Careful, that foreigner wants your cookie. This is it. Yeah, the very fact that the son of Jewish migrants is behaving like Adolf Hitler reborn here is also more proof that Americans assimilate, and become American. What is more American than being the son of migrants, only to turn around and be like, yeah, fuck these migrants, dude. They're unwashed masses. They're coming in to ruin the country. And in this exact same lifespan, like, he has relatives that directly were targeted as Jews with the exact same sentiment.
Afghan rights groups say, don't blame us for the...
People look back to the 1980s.
What an insane... Like, it's a non-starter. Someone has to die, right? I love that the guy who's, like, against Donald Trump here is still on board in principle with, like, the executions of at least some Venezuelans. He's like, yeah, just lob missiles from afar. Brave boys and girls to engage in a land invasion of Venezuela. I like that that's the anti-war position here. That's the centrist. The centrist position is like, hey, please. Like, someone has to die. You know, some Venezuelans are going to die. Right? That's a given. It's just, you know, let's make sure that it's just like Venezuelans in leadership. Awesome. Yeah, what are we supposed to do with these missiles? They're just sitting around in stockpiles, man. They have to be used. Otherwise, they're just they're rusting. They're getting rusty in the stockpiles. And those stockpiles have to be replenished. But in order for them to be replenished, in order for us to turn profit here, we gotta use them. If you don't use it, you lose it. Increasing holding cost of inventory, unacceptable. Yeah. It's great.
'80s and '90s when we invaded Panama and kind of took that country and took the leader Noriega, a very successful operation called Just Cause. Here's the problem. Panama is a tiny country. Venezuela, it's twice the size of California. It would be a big military operation.
This is footage that has shocked many, and it starts with two men emerging from a building under the gaze of Israeli soldiers. The men raise their arms in surrender. They're kicked on the ground and then pushed back to the building. And then, with grim, calm precision, they are shot dead. Moments later, a digger is used to collapse part of the building on top of their bodies before the soldiers return to the debris and drag out one of the victims. Jenin is a city that has seen so many conflicts between Palestinians and Israelis. The tension and anger now renewed.
They have been killed in cold blood. They could have arrested them and not executed them. This is a heinous crime. It's disturbing and painful and frustrating for us.
For the record, even arresting them would be illegal. Jenin is Palestinian territory. It is illegal for the Israeli occupational forces to even exist there. But of course, that's besides the point because nobody gives a shit about the rules.
The Israeli military is still in Jenin, demolishing buildings, arresting more people. But the anger over these killings has spread far beyond this city, raising profound questions.
The images that we're seeing are...
By the way, before people say cool ceasefire, this is not in Gaza. This is in the West Bank.
Are a microcosm of the larger violence in the West Bank. The Palestinian Authority has said it is a war crime. It certainly looks like that's the case. The issue is that there is a lack of credible investigations into any of these killings.
The Israeli military says it is transparent and will investigate, but many are dubious. Between 2018 and 2022, there were 219 cases launched against Israeli soldiers accused of killing Palestinians illegally in the West Bank. Of these, 107 were actually investigated, but only one led to an indictment and conviction, and the punishment was community service. The only reason we know about these killings is because they were filmed by a bystander, but that has led to international condemnation from human rights groups, from the United Nations and beyond. But here in Israel, there is an enduring respect for the military and a widespread feeling that soldiers should be immune from punishment and even investigation. Take this man, Israel's national security minister.
We need to put an end to this distorted procedure. When one of our fighters shoots a terrorist, they immediately take him for questioning. We need to stop this distorted procedure. We need to stop this perception. We are fighting enemies and murderers who want to rape women and burn babies.
But the impact of these images will run deep. Can Israel really convince the world that this was justified? Adam Parsons.
They don't need to.
Volodymyr Zelensky,
They get whatever the fuck they want.
his right-hand man, lead Ukrainian negotiator.
Also, Itamar Ben-Gvir talking about they want to rape our women and kill our babies, burn our babies is so crazy. Because he directly has celebrated the raping of Palestinians. Always, of course, yes. Israel will investigate itself and the results will be the same. The criminal will be never held accountable. The only reason we're even talking about it is because it was caught on video and they only allowed it to be filmed because they know they can get away with it. Yep. Always. Yeah. Welcome to Israel, where the rapists are heroes. Force 100, the battle for justice, the reservists from the notorious rape and torture unit that used to operate at the Sde Taimon concentration camp were given 22 minutes of airtime to play victims.
On the international stage, and the second most powerful person in Ukraine. No more. Andriy Yermak quit hours after anti-corruption officials raided his home.
First, the President's Office of Ukraine will undergo a full reboot. Its head, Andriy Yermak, has tendered his resignation. I am grateful to Andriy for consistently presenting Ukraine's position at the negotiating table exactly as it ought to be presented. His stance has always been staunchly patriotic. However, I want to avoid any rumours or needless speculation.
Hassan mentioned a DSA Black Friday email. I love to hear why people join DSA. Some of you were inspired by Zohran Mamdani's victory in New York City. Others saw us on their union's picket lines or a solidarity supporting striking Starbucks workers. Others saw us in the media everywhere from Hassan Piker's Twitch stream to maligned on the cover of right-wing newspapers. Many were recruited through our fall drive-by friends, family, or coworkers who are already members. Damn. I told him you told me about it. Nice. I do funnel a lot. The DSA started to like you? What do you mean? There's never been a moment where the DSA has not liked me. What the fuck? It's like one of the... It's like, started is so funny. Damn, nice of them. We were watching at our chapter watch party. Hell yeah. Ryan Grimm has a good take. The idea that we should freeze all migration because of one of CIA's death squad recruits went on a rampage is absurd. Smarter would be to stop training death squads. Yeah. Oh, well.
Their lives. Obviously, my friends and family who are there are anxious or concerned about potential actions. Some of them are moving if they feel like they're close to military targets. They're finding elsewhere to stay. But for most people, it's getting into the holiday season, and so they're trying to live their lives. But it has also had significant impact because the U.S. has also said that airlines should not fly into or in Venezuelan air territory, and so many airlines have not canceled flights, and so that's affected the plans of many Venezuelans that they had, especially for holidays, to travel. And so it's definitely an impact.
Okay, we'll leave it there for now, but let's see what...
Training death squads in foreign countries creates jobs. True. Tremendous opportunity for prosperity, too.
happens next. Thank you for breaking it down, Alejandro Velasco. Appreciate it.
New this morning, President Trump says the U.S. military will start targeting alleged drug trafficking networks inside Venezuela very soon.
We've almost stopped. It's about 85% stopped by sea. You probably noticed that. People aren't wanting to be delivering by sea.
Yeah, it was 0% before, and it's still 0% now. We just killed a bunch of people in the process. Fucking can't argue with that, you know?
And we'll be starting to stop them by land also. The land is easier, but that's going to start very soon. We warned them, stop sending poison to our country.
I hate this fucking...
Thousands of U.S. troops and more than a dozen warships are in the Caribbean in the waters off Venezuela. You were seeing the strikes, some of those strikes that have happened in the waters off of Venezuela. They've been carrying out those deadly strikes for weeks now. Joining me now, CNN senior military analyst and former NATO Supreme Allied Commander Admiral James Stavridis. Thank you so much for being here this morning. All right, President Trump is saying that he will soon stop the Venezuelan drug trafficking by land. Do you read that to mean he's talking about troops on the ground? I mean, what else could it mean?
You eat a lot. I'm a big boy.
I think it sounds like boots on the ground. I was just reading an email I got from a Vietnam War veteran who said the four most frightening words he can imagine a president saying are, "The land is easier," meaning once you start putting boots on the ground, it gets a lot harder than dropping bombs from the air or launching missiles from the sea. And I know that, having launched a lot of missiles from the sea. The danger is when you put troops ashore. So what's the president talking about? I don't know. I hope it would be very limited kind of incursions, perhaps against drug labs, maybe going after some leadership targets. I could sketch those out in greater depth, Sarah. But frankly, we need to be very cautious about anything that involves putting U.S. boots on the ground in Venezuela. I hope the Congress gets involved with this. Final thought, sometimes people...
That's crazy. That's... What is this? I can't sit at my own desk? All right, move, come on. Move. Big old lady. Oh, God. Bro, call her big. She is big. Big as fuck. She's not done. She wants more pets. Streets are saying she's milking it. Yeah, she
Wednesday afternoon. As news of her death was confirmed last night and a procession drove her body for a post-mortem, the fears of many Americans were brought to the fore. Passers-by filmed the moments after Wednesday's attack. President Trump had argued that calling troops onto the streets of Democrat-run cities was to reduce crime, but others saw it as a political provocation that could end badly. Mr. Trump described Ms. Beckstrom as a national hero.
Outstanding in every way. She's just passed away. She's no longer with us. She's looking down at us right now.
31-year-old Afghan Ramanullah Lakanwal was quickly named as the suspect. He's now been charged with first-degree murder. The D.C. attorney and Trump ally Jeanine Pirro promised to delve deep into his background.
About what actually happened in terms of this individual even being in this country and being in a position to ambush and shoot down an innocent young woman.
Lakanwal had fled Afghanistan in the chaotic U.S. withdrawal of 2021 during the Biden administration. He'd reportedly fought against the Taliban for an Afghan paramilitary force and been trained by the CIA. He was eventually granted asylum by the Trump administration only a few months ago, after he'd started his second term. The president tried to pin the blame on his predecessor in another unedifying outburst at a female reporter.
Why do you blame the Biden administration?
Because they let him in. Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person? Because they came in on a plane along with thousands of other people that shouldn't be here.
Yes, he got fucking asylum during the Trump administration.